Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to dive in.
Awesome. So today we're tackling something that's, well, it's kind of the backbone of a lot of the internet.
Oh, yeah. I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
We're talking content management systems, CMS for short.
Ah, CMS. The unsung heroes powering websites, blogs, all sorts of online stuff.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. You're reading an article, browsing an online store, or even listening to this very podcast.
Chances are there's a CMS working behind the scenes.
Right. But here's the thing. The world of content's not just about websites anymore, is it?
No, no, not at all. We've got apps, smart devices, all sorts of digital experiences popping up left and right.
So true. And that's where things get really interesting in the CMS world. We've got this sort of evolution happening.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like the classic tale of two contenders, right?
You
Yeah.
got it. Traditional CMS versus headless CMS.
The battle for the future of content.
Okay, maybe not a battle, but definitely a fascinating shift. Now, traditional CMS, these are the names you've probably heard of: WordPress, Drupal, things like that.
Yeah, the old guard, they're great for what they do, solid for building websites and managing content.
Exactly. But they have this thing called tightly coupled architecture. Basically, the front end, what the user sees, and the back end, where you manage the content, they're like super glued together.
Like two sides of the same coin, you can't have one without the other.
Right. And that works fine for classic websites, but it can get a bit clunky when you want to do more, when you're thinking beyond just the website itself.
Yeah, that's where the limitations start to show. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Perfect analogy. So
Yeah.
let's talk about headless CMS. These are the newcomers, the disruptors, if you will.
Oh yeah, Headless is shaking things up.
Okay.
Contentful, Strappy, Sanity. These are some of the big names.
And their whole deal is decoupled architecture.
Decoupled, which basically means the front end and the back end are totally separate. They talk to each other through these things called APIs.
APIs, okay. For those of us who aren't tech whizzers, break that down a bit. What's an API?
Sure thing. An API, or application programming interface, is kind of like a messenger that lets different software systems talk to each other. Think of it like ordering food online. You use the app, that's the front end, and it sends your order to the restaurant system, that's the back end, through an API. They never directly interact, but the order gets through.
Ooh, okay, I get it. So with headless CMS, the content lives separately, and you can use APIs to deliver it to, well, anywhere.
Exactly. Your website, sure, but also a mobile app, a smartwatch, that interactive kiosk at the mall. It's super flexible.
Wow. So you're telling me I could have one central hub for all my content and then sprinkle it across all these different platforms?
You got it. It's about future-proofing your content. You never know what new devices or platforms will come along, but with Headless, you're ready for anything.
This is blowing my mind a little bit. Okay, so we've got these two approaches. Let's do a head-to-head comparison here. First up, architecture.
Right. So traditional CMS, that's the tightly coupled model we talked about, front end and back end are inseparable.
And headless is decoupled, the dynamic duo working through APIs.
Yeah.
Next, content delivery.
Traditional CMS is pretty much focused on delivering content to websites. Maybe some web apps, but that's about it.
While headless, that's where it shines. It's multi-platform, website, apps, whatever you can dream up.
Exactly. It's all about reach.
Okay, what about flexibility?
Traditional CMS, it's a bit more rigid. You're kind of working within its predefined structure.
Headless, that's where the flexibility really comes in.
Yeah.
You've got so much more control over how and where your content is displayed.
And that control can be incredibly valuable as your content needs evolve.
Right. And last but not least, development. How does the actual building process differ between the two?
Well, with traditional CMS, you often need developers who can handle both front-end and back-end work. They have to be a jack of all trades.
But with headless, you can have specialized front-end developers who just focus on creating those amazing user experiences because the content is being managed separately.
Precisely. It can streamline your development process and let your team focus on their strengths.
Okay, so we've got this great comparison table laid out. But in the real world, how does all this play out? Can you give us some examples?
Sure. Imagine a company, let's say an online clothing retailer.
Love it. I can already picture their stylish website.
They want to launch a new collection, right? Big announcement. With a headless CMS, they can push that content, product images, descriptions, prices to their website, their app, their social media feeds, all at the same time.
Seamless. And they can tailor the experience for each platform, right? Like maybe on Instagram, they're using short, snappy videos,
Hmm.
but on their website, they've got detailed product pages.
Exactly. They control the messaging, the format, everything. It's about meeting their customers where they are.
This is amazing. Okay, so I'm sold on headless CMS for those big, ambitious content projects. But let's be real. Is there ever a time when a traditional CMS is still the best choice?
Absolutely. For simpler websites, like a blog or a small business site, traditional CMS is often more straightforward to set up and manage.
It's like you wouldn't hire a whole construction crew to build a birdhouse, right?
Exactly. And traditional CMS platforms often have a huge ecosystem of plugins and themes, which can be super helpful for getting started quickly.
Right, it's all about finding the right tool for the job. So, for our listeners out there, what are the key takeaways they should keep in mind when they're diving into the CMS world?
I think the biggest thing is to really think about your content strategy. What are you trying to achieve? Where do you want your content to live?
If it's just a simple website, traditional CMS might be the perfect fit.
But if you're thinking bigger, if you want your content to be truly multi-platform, then headless CMS is definitely worth exploring.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. So, listener, as you embark on your own content adventures, remember, it's not just about building a website anymore.
It's about creating a dynamic content ecosystem that reaches your audience wherever they are.
Think beyond the web, think about the future of content, and choose the CMS that empowers you to create something truly amazing. What kind of digital experiences are you going to build?
That's for you to decide. Until next time, happy content creating.
And happy diving.